under the soft amber lights of the Heart to Heart studio in Yeouido, Seoul. The air was unusually still. Cameras hummed quietly. Audience members leaned forward in silent anticipation. And Sun Ye-jin, the woman once crowned Korea's eternal goddess of romance, sat at the center of it all. She wore a cream-colored dress, elegant yet understated. Her hair loosely tied back as though she had not wanted to try too hard. The smile on her face was polite, almost rehearsed. But her eyes shimmered with the exhaustion of someone who had been holding back far too long. The host began gently, her tone careful. Ye-jin SSI. It's been almost 2 years since your wedding with Hyun and the birth of your son. How has life changed for you? For a brief moment, Sun Ye-jin's smile remained. But as the question lingered, her lips trembled slightly, a pause that felt like a crack in porcelain. It's different, she said softly. Her voice low, fragile. People see happiness. But sometimes, they don't see the weight behind it. The lights reflected on her eyes. And the camera captured a glimmer that wasn't just reflection, it was the beginning of a tear. The host hesitated, sensing the shift. The audience held its breath. A single tear rolled down her cheek, tracing the fine lines that fame and motherhood had quietly left behind. In that moment, the studio wasn't filled with a sound of applause or laughter. It was filled with something heavier, the collective heartbeat of empathy, confusion, and heartbreak. The producers hadn't expected this. Crew didn't know where to cut. But the nation was about to witness a side of Sun Ye-jin it had never seen before. Before the world called her a queen. Was the woman who captivated millions and crash landing on you. The drama that made her name inseparable from Hyunbin's. Was a fairy tale told in close-ups and tears. In snowstorms and whispered promises. When their on-screen love became real. Fans around the world celebrated Korea's golden couple. A love story written by destiny itself. Their wedding at Aston House in Seoul in 2022 was hailed as the wedding of the century. Every photo glowed with perfection, Hyunbin's smile, Ye-jin's laughter. The way they looked at each other like nothing else in the world existed. But fairy tales, as every grown woman learns, are not built to survive reality. It was supposed to be forever. Ye-jin whispered that day in the studio. But sometimes, forever feels heavier than I thought. Her words fell like raindrops in a quiet room. The host nodded softly, unwilling to interrupt the honesty unraveling before her. Sun Ye-jin went on to speak about the invisible expectations that came after the applause. People see the beautiful dresses, the family photos, the smiles, she said. But behind every picture, there's a moment when I ask myself if I'm doing enough, as a wife, as a mother, as an actress. The studio lights dimmed slightly as the set transitioned to a pre-recorded clip. But the moment had already left its mark. Viewers watching from home would later describe it as the most human they had ever seen her. After the clip, the host asked about her decision to return to acting so soon after giving birth. Ye-jin sighed softly, her eyes distant. I thought I could balance everything. I thought I could be perfect. But I learned that perfection is the fastest way to lose yourself. The audience gasped quietly, not because the words were shocking, but because they felt true. Does Hyunbin support you during these difficult times? The host asked carefully, trying to keep her tone neutral. Ye-jin's gaze flickered for a second. She looked down at her hands, fingers clasped tightly together. Silence stretched so long that the cameras hesitated to cut. Finally, she smiled faintly. He tries. Said. But sometimes, even love isn't enough to fill the silence. No one moved. The room froze in that single sentence. Somewhere far from Seoul, Hyunbin was filming Crossfire in Busan. His schedule packed with action sequences and night shoots. The distance wasn't only geographical. It was emotional, an ocean between two people who had once shared the same dream. She looked like she wanted to say more. One crew member later recalled. But she swallowed the words. The host changed the subject briefly, asking about motherhood. And Ye-jin's face softened again. He's my light, she said, referring to her son. When I see him smile, I remember who I am. Her tears returned, gentler this time. Like a quiet confession. The camera zoomed in. The audience saw not a movie star, not a goddess, but a woman who had given everything, her youth, her career, her heart, to a world that demanded more every time she smiled. Then came the question that broke her, if you could send a message to yourself 3 years ago. Before all of this, before the wedding. Or the fame turned personal, what would you say? Lips parted. Her breath caught. For a moment, she looked as if she was speaking to someone only she could see. I would tell her, she whispered. Lose yourself trying to make everyone else happy. It hung in the air like smoke. Silence swept through the studio. Even the host, holding her cue cards, could bring herself to speak. The audience, a sea of strangers, could only watch as tears streamed down the face of a woman who had spent years pretending she didn't cry. The broadcast cut to commercial. Damage was done. In that short, unguarded moment, Sun Yejin had torn open the perfect image that Korea had built around her. By the time the program aired that night, her tears had already become a storm. Clips flooded social media. Fans replayed the moment again and again, analyzing every tremor in her voice, every flicker of her smile. Some said it was exhaustion. Others whispered that something had gone wrong in her marriage. But the truth, perhaps, was simpler and sadder. Sun Yejin wasn't crying because of Hyun Bin. Wasn't crying because of fame. She was crying because she had been strong for too long. Outside the studio, the wind was cold that night. Seoul's skyline glittered beyond the Han River, the same city that had watched her rise. Fall and rise again. As her car pulled away from the building, cameras flashed, chasing her into the dark. Team stayed silent. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Somewhere, a reporter wrote the headline that would soon dominate every feed: Sun Yejin breaks down in tears. Where was Hyun Bin when she needed him most? But inside the car, as the city blurred into streaks of light, she sat quietly, hands folded on her lap, her reflection trembling against the window. And for the first time in a long while, she didn't wipe her tears away. Fell, slow and silent, like snow. And for once, she let them. The morning after the broadcast, Seoul awoke to a wave of whispers. Outlets replayed the same 3 minutes, Sun Yejin's trembling lips, her tearful confession. The silence that followed. Within hours, hashtags flooded every platform: Sun Yejin tears, Hyun Bin reaction, the Queen cries. Fans across Asia dissected every frame, breath, every pause. Some defended her vulnerability. Others speculated that her marriage, it's the envy of the nation, was quietly unraveling. The producers of Heart to Heart issued a statement later that day: the interview was not scripted. Sun Yejin spoke from the heart. It was meant to be a neutral clarification, but it only fueled the fire. Spoke from the heart. Then what truth had her tears revealed? Paparazzi swarmed near her home in Hanam-dong, hoping to catch a glimpse of Hyun Bin leaving or returning. But he was nowhere to be seen. He was still in Busan, filming Crossfire, his agency confirming he would remain on set for several more weeks. The schedule is very demanding. The statement read. He has not yet seen the broadcast. That single sentence, simple, factual, harmless, sparked outrage among fans who believed he should have been there, should have said something. Held her when the world turned its eyes on her pain. Following this, Yejin retreated from public view. Her agency released a brief note thanking fans for their concern and asking for understanding. She is resting with her family, it said. Words only deepened the mystery. Which family? Was Hyun Bin home? Were they together? Or had silence once again become their shared language? Behind closed doors, the truth was quieter than anyone imagined. According to one crew member close to her, Sun Yejin had spent the night of the broadcast in her mother's house in Seongbukdong. She didn't want to go home right away. Or said softly. She said she needed time to breathe. Her mother reportedly prepared her favorite seaweed soup and asked no questions. Sometimes. Source continued. The hardest part of love is having to pretend everything's fine when it isn't. Days passed, but the headlines refused to fade. National media joined in, turning her tears into symbols of everything from celebrity pressure to feminist endurance. Articles appeared in English, Japanese, and Thai, all with similar tones: the nation's sweetheart in tears. Open to Korea's perfect couple. Meanwhile, Hyun Bin was photographed on set, stoic, focused, his expression unreadable. The image of him holding a script under gray skies became a canvas for endless speculation. Some saw coldness, others saw restraint. Others defended him fiercely. He's doing his job. Not every husband needs to speak for his wife. Yet amid the noise, the woman at the center of it all stayed silent. A week later, a friend of Sun Yejin's, An actress known for her calm honesty, spoke anonymously to a magazine. Yejin is not broken, he said. She's just tired. She's been trying to be everything at once, the ideal mother, the perfect wife, the unshakable actress. But sometimes, she forgets she's human. The words resonated deeply across social media. Fans began sharing stories of their own exhaustion, tagging her name in messages of empathy. We understand you, Yejin SSI. You don't have to be perfect. Her older interviews with Marie Claire Korea. Sun Yejin once said, I don't fear aging or losing beauty. What scares me is losing my heart while trying to please everyone else. The quote resurfaced online, circulating alongside her tearful image, a haunting echo of the woman the public had long admired. Amidst the chaos, a flicker of light appeared. 8th day after the interview aired, Hyun finally spoke during a press event in Busan. The room was packed, the reporters hungry for answers. He arrived looking composed, wearing a simple black suit. The moderator hesitated before asking the inevitable question, have you seen Sun Yejin's interview? Hyun paused for a long moment before replying. Yes, he said quietly. I saw it. The room went still. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed something unspoken. We all have moments when we feel overwhelmed, he continued. She has carried a lot on her own. Proud of her, as an actress, and as the person she is. I'll always be by her side. It spread like wildfire. Some called it touching. Others found it distant. One columnist described it best. He didn't speak like a lover trying to calm a rumor. He spoke like a man who knows that some things cannot be fixed with words. The first time in days, Sun Yejin's name began to fade from the top of search rankings. The storm slowly softened into sympathy. She was seen a few days later, quietly walking into a cafe in Hanam-dong, no makeup, hair tied up, wearing a beige coat that nearly blended with the autumn streets. Customers recognized her but kept their distance. Ordered a latte and sat by the window, reading through what looked like a film script. A witness described the moment. She looked peaceful, but her eyes were somewhere far away. Sunlight hit her face. She smiled, just a little. Outside, the trees along the street had turned golden, their leaves drifting down like feathers. Inside, Yejin turned a page of her script and underlined a line softly. The world doesn't owe you happiness. You must create your own. Perhaps it was coincidence. Perhaps it was her way of reminding herself that even when love feels distant, even when silence feels unbearable, still life waiting to be lived. When she finally left the cafe, reporters caught a glimpse of her from afar. She didn't hide. She didn't hurry. She simply walked, slowly, deliberately, as if reclaiming her own rhythm. That night, Hyun returned to Seoul after wrapping his scenes. Cameras waited at the airport. He didn't stop for interviews. Instead, slipped quietly into a car and disappeared into the city. Some say he went home. Others say he drove directly to Hanam-dong. No one knows what words, if any, exchanged when they met again. But perhaps none were needed. Because sometimes love isn't about always being there at the right moment, it's about finding your way back when it matters most. Weeks later, Heart to Heart released a short behind-the-scenes clip from the day of the interview. In it, after the cameras stopped rolling, Yejin can be seen wiping her eyes and laughing softly. Sorry, she tells the crew. I didn't mean to cry like that. The host replies gently, no. It's okay. It was real. Yejin smiles again. Small but steady. Real is harder than acting, isn't it? Those words lingered, quiet, poetic, achingly human. In the end, her tears did not mark the fall of a fairy tale. They marked its evolution. From fantasy to truth. From performance to personhood. From Sun Yejin, the actress everyone adored, to Sun Yejin, and who finally allowed herself to feel. And maybe, somewhere in the silence that followed, Hyun understood that her tears were not a question for him to answer. They were a reminder, to her, to him, everyone watching, that love, no matter how beautiful, is not about perfection. About presence. As winter crept into Seoul and the leaves along the Han River disappeared one by one, the memory of that interview faded into something gentler. Not a scandal. Not a tragedy. But a moment, fragile, luminous, and real. And though the cameras have long stopped rolling, the moment remains suspended in the nation's heart, A single tear that fell on live television and revealed the truth we all forget: even the brightest stars need somewhere to rest their light.